Standing Committee on Public Accounts Chairperson Songezo Zibi joins me now. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Zibi. Thanks very much for your time. Whatever it's called, special leave or suspension, some people have put it, including members of your committee. It actually doesn't bode well for the CEO of the Road Accident Fund, does it?
No, thanks very much for having me on. So the reasons given by the board to us were concerned two matters. The first is that over the last week, I would say maybe the last 5 days, the chief executive had indicated in legal letters to myself that he would not be coming to the committee. And the board had a dispute with him over that matter because the Road Accident Fund is accountable to Parliament. The second reason is that the content of the presentation or the documents that were to be submitted to Parliament, they had erroneously sent them to us, were basically, in my view, an insult to the intelligence of the committee in that they contained no useful information. The board says there were other matters pertaining to the investigation that led them to the decision. It doesn't bode well for the Road Accident Fund because everybody must come and account to Parliament. And to have an official of a public entity refusing to account to Parliament and have another official instructing the committee not to even discuss them at all in the meeting is a sign of an institution that has gone rogue.
Yeah, I mean, from the little that I saw, of course, I had to move across several committee meetings online. It was apparent that members of the committee didn't take lightly to how the board and the entity was treating the committee. What were the reasons given last week for them as to why the CEO would not come before the committee?
The reason advanced by the chief executive and initially by the chair of the board, by the way, in letters that were uncannily similar, was that they have not yet been presented with the interim report presented to us by the SIU, such that they would be able to answer our questions. I responded to them and said that it's not our intention to traverse matters that emanate exclusively from the investigation. In fact, we're only going to deal with matters that we've already raised, which have merely been amplified by the interim report of the SIU. And therefore, they need to come and answer those questions. We would protect the rights of individuals who may or may not be implicated in the matter, which is what happened today. He, however, didn't respond to that letter until he was suspended. He was placed on special leave. And as the board said to us, they took the decision because they yet did not have a commitment from him that he would agree to come before Parliament.
And the documents, I mean, how were they erroneously sent to you with, as you say, no particularly useful information? What happened there, or what could have happened?
I do not want to speculate, although the chairperson of the board alluded to the fact that there was a dispute with regards to the content. And let me give an example, because this is important as material information for the public. Since October last year, the committee has asked the Road Accident Fund to provide us with a list of attorneys who do work on its behalf, not just those representing claimants. They have failed to do so. Even in the documents that they finally submitted, they merely provided a list of attorneys but failed to provide the actual amounts of money relevant to each firm of attorneys. We insisted that they provide that information during the meeting, and it turned out there are two law firms that have 83% of the money, of the funds that the Road Accident Fund commits to legal action, a sum of about 83 million rand. Just between just two law firms, in a panel of attorneys that numbers about 43. That's hugely disproportionate, and they couldn't explain properly to us how that came about. That's precisely the reason why we wanted the information, and it had not been provided until we insisted today.
Is that where the frustration of members of the committee comes from, or are there deeper issues that go way back, even preceding even your own tenure? Because one sensed, I mean, virtually every committee member who spoke today, certainly in the period that I watched, was frustrated, some angry even, at how this entity has been dealing with Parliament.
Look, it's how the entity has been dealing with Parliament and the Auditor General. Firstly, they have insisted on using their own accounting standard, not the one required by Treasury and the Accounting Standards Board, which has created a conflict between the road accident funds numbers and the numbers that are in our budget that South Africans take so seriously. That's one matter. The second matter is that the road accident fund has not vetted its senior officials at all. In fact, the chief executive of the Road Accident Fund informed the committee that he had been vetted. This was untrue. He had not been vetted. This was not the only instance where he provided misleading information to the committee. That would be the second instance. The third instance is an inability or unwillingness to do simple background checking on employees that they are hiring at a senior level, which the committee was able to do by mere letter to the city of Johannesburg. Fourth, the Road Accident Fund, even though it is engaged in litigation literally every day, has not had a head of legal services for more than 2 years. The legal staff report to a head of governance who, to a credit, has an MBA, but is hardly the qualification you need to litigate all the way to the Constitutional Court. I can go on and on, Vuyo. This is a rogue management and a rogue board who have chosen to create rules of their own and operate in their own universe, and that cannot be allowed.
Now, I'm keen to know what the attitude or what the view of your committee as legislators is, because when one looks at the entities that fall within transport, often we get a sense that the minister is about doing things properly, cracking the whip and getting these entities to work. The deputy minister, who seemingly has been deployed or it deals with RAF matters particularly, is the former chairperson of the very committee that you are heading. What have been their responses to whatever complaints or issues you've raised with them? But in this particular case, we're talking about the Road Accident Fund.
So their position, firstly, they've been very supportive of the work of the committee. In fact, when the chief executive and chair said they don't want to come to the committee, the deputy minister and I spoke, because the minister was overseas and the deputy minister has delegated authority over the Road Accident Fund. It was through his efforts that the board eventually agreed to appear before the committee. And I commend him for that. The second thing, on issues such as the litigation against the Auditor General, the minister has been very clear that they have instructed the board not to pursue that litigation. The board and the management have chosen to ignore the minister. They have ignored the Treasury. They have ignored the Auditor General. They've even contradicted the budget that Parliament has passed. And we've demanded today that the deputy minister and the minister must tell us by next week, by the end of next week, what steps they're going to take to remedy the situation.
And as the committee, are there other actions that you believe would still need to be taken beyond next week to really, well, and hopefully resolve or deal with the matters, all matters around this entity, and hopefully once and for all?
Look, we made it clear today, Vuyo, that this board is deficient, it's failing. You cannot have, the Road Accident Fund deals with two primary areas. It's the legal area and the processing of claims. It does not have a chief claims officer. It has not had one for more than 2 years. The chief executive officer acts as a chief claims officer and therefore reports to himself. 1. 2, it is occupied with litigation. It has litigated and I hear all the way to the Constitutional Court, paying tens of millions of rand to just 2 law firms and senior counsel, without an internal legal counsel to guide them. This is madness. And so we would like the minister to take action against the board and to ensure that there is proper management in the institution that cares for our legal institutions, for the Treasury, for the authority of the Auditor General, has got ethical employees who do not lie to the committee repeatedly, in person and in writing, to the extent that they have to apologize in writing. It's an untenable situation, and we are going to see this matter through. And if the minister does not act next week, we are going to summon her to come to Parliament, and then we'll take further steps all the way to the president.
Songezo Zibi, let me thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. The chairperson of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts in Parliament. Following that session, few-hour session they had this morning with the board of the Road Accident Fund and, of course, the management of the entity, where the MPs didn't hide their frustration at the way that this entity has been treating them. And as you heard from the chairperson of the committee there, some strong words coming from them and what they hope or believe or wish could happen next.